Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, Allie's Book Nook. Today I'm going to share with you the 14 books that I acquired for the month of February 2026. I have 13 books for my personal collection and then one library book. So before we get started on the books, I did purchase one bookish item, and that is this cute little keychain from Barnes & Noble. It says Bookworm, and I have that hanging on my purse, so that's really cute. Sorry, I have a little bit of a cold, so my voice is a little off today. Okay, so next I have a very special book to talk about, and this is a book that was sent to me as a signed copy from the author, and that is Home by Ben Young. So Ben Young and his wife Lauren have a YouTube channel, and that is called The Youngs and the Restless, and they do book reviews, book hauls, all things bookish, and it's a really fun channel. So if you haven't checked them out, I highly encourage you to go check them out, The Youngs and the Restless, and that is their channel. But Ben is an indie horror author, and he sometimes talks about that on his channel. And so after hearing him talk about that, I was interested in his books. I went and looked in Amazon and Kindle, and they actually do have some of his books. He has a few full-length novels as well as some stories that are in compilations with other authors. But anyway, I picked up a copy on Kindle of Home, and I had commented on their channel about it, and then they made a comment on their channel that they have been getting feedback from other reviewers as well that were checking out Ben's material, and they said, if you want a signed nameplate for your books, let me know. So I was like, of course, yes. Even though I was reading the e-copy, I do like physical copies better. So Ben went above and beyond, and he sent me not just a book plate, but a signed copy of his book, as well as a couple little cards for his their YouTube channel. This is really cool. On the back, it has his website, Ben Young Stories, but on the front, it's a business card for a character in their book, and it says Lloyd Minnick, funeral director, 432 Asher Street, Ocala, Ohio, which will make more sense if you read the book. And the sticker is a character in the book called Cowboy. He's a dog. And this says, Minnick Family Funeral Home Employee of the Month, Cowboy. And in the story, he's a greyhound who has one ear that's floppy. So that was super cool. And I have a personalized signature from him and an autograph from Cowboy, a paw print. So it says, to Allie, with deepest sympathies, and it's his signature, Ben Young. P.S. Thanks for reading and watching. And then it says Cowboy, and there's his little footprint. So that was so fun. I was like totally nerding out about getting this. That was just like one of the coolest things ever. And I have actually read this book since I received it. I'm going to talk about it in my reading wrap up for February. So tune in for that. It was a great book. Highly recommend it. But yeah, he's a great indie author, and his stuff is on, like I said, Kindle, Amazon, his website. So check him out, Ben Young. I gotta find a place to put all these. This one is special. That one's going up there with the swag there. Okay, and then I liked that so much that I purchased another book of his off of Amazon, and this is Stuck. And this was, I think, $14.99 on Amazon. I believe this is his debut novel, and it is like a claustrophobic horror novel. I don't know if I said, but Home is a horror novel. This is also horror, and it takes place in a cave. So each death is unique. Well, you recognize when yours begins, and so it has that claustrophobic cave feel to it, and I'm all about that. So really excited to read this one. I will probably read that in March here. The next book we're still talking about new books here. The next one I picked up is Her Last Breath by Taylor Adams. And coincidentally, this is another claustrophobic cave book, but this is like more of a thriller than a horror. And I actually already started on this one last night. So I'll be reviewing this in my March reading wrap up, but so far it's good. And Taylor Adams is awesome. He wrote No Exit. He wrote Hairpin Bridge, a couple other ones. Oh, The Last Word. But No Exit is like one of my all-time favorite thrillers. So this was just released in February, end of February. And I went to Barnes & Noble to pick it up. And they actually had to go, it was like the day after it was released, they had to go in the back of the store and get me a copy. So I was so happy about that. I actually have more new books here than I normally do in a month. Usually I get most of my books secondhand. But on that same trip to Barnes & Noble, I picked up one other new book, and that is Night Watching by Tracy Sierra. I thought this would be a thriller book, but they actually had it in their horror section. And this is about a mom and her kids who are in an isolated cabin during a snowstorm, and there's an intruder. So it's kind of like a survival thriller type book. So excited to check that one out. I guess horror, but there might be a little bit of crossover. She has a new book out now too. So the next book I got is my last new book. And this is also a horror book by one of my favorite authors, Darcy Coates, and this is Parasite. And this might be a little bit of a genre blender too into sci-fi, because this takes place, I'm assuming in the future, with a human colony on the moon and a parasite invades, I guess. So that sounds really good. Darcy Coates is pretty much an auto-buy author for me these days. I definitely want to read more of her catalog this year, but I had a gift card for Amazon for $25 and I was able to get 3 books with like, I don't know, a $3 extra charge, but this was one of them. It was under $11. It was 10 something new on Amazon. Okay, the rest of these are used, and I'll start with the other 2 I got on Amazon with that same gift card. The first one is called, sorry if my camera is shaky, I have the books right here, Departure 37 by Scott Carson. So I have not heard of this book. I saw it at Barnes & Noble a couple of times in the horror section, and I wanted to get it, but it was like $30 for the hardback. So I looked on Amazon and I found it used for, I want to say it was under $10. I don't remember the exact price, but it was 10 or 12. It was like half the price, less than half the price of Barnes & Noble. So, like I said, this was in the horror section. It has a blurb by Stephen King on the front that says, my cat's getting into stuff. It says, if you love the Twilight Zone, this is for you. It's a mind blower. So this also sounds like it could be a genre blending book between horror and a little bit of sci-fi. And it's basically where every pilot in the world has I think they have a dream. They receive a call during the middle of the night from their mothers with a simple and urgent request: do not fly today. So imagine every pilot in the world gets a call from their mom in the middle of the night saying, do not fly. So I don't know where this is going, but that hooked me. And I have not read any of that author, but he had a couple other books there at Barnes & Noble that looked good. Okay, the next one is also a book that I saw at Barnes & Noble, but it was pretty expensive in the hard copy, and so I found one used on Amazon for $4, and it's in excellent condition, and that is The Unveiling. And this is by Quan Berry, author of We Ride Upon Sticks. I have not heard of this author or this book before this, but it was in the horror section. Apparently I spent a lot of time there at Barnes & Noble this month, but it is like it takes place in the Antarctic. So a luxury trip to Antarctica goes horribly wrong in Barry's triumph of literary horror, terrifying must-read set at the ends of the earth. And it has a little map in the front. So I've kind of been into like survival thrillers, survival horror books lately. Like the whole caving books that I got, and this sounded really cool. Um, the book From Below by Darcy Coates, I read that in January, and that took place in the deep sea, and that was very atmospheric, claustrophobic, added a whole vibe to the book, and I'm hoping that a little bit of that kind of vibe carries into this book. So the Unveiling, $4, excellent condition. Yeah. So coincidentally, this was also like another total coincidence of getting, like, you know, I got the 2 cave books. I ended up getting another horror book that's also set in the Antarctic, I believe, and that is called Dark Matter, A Ghost Story by Michelle Paver. Not to be confused with Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. But basically, yeah, this looks to be a ghost story set in the Antarctic, or maybe just the Arctic. Maybe it's the Northern Arctic. I'm not really sure. Out of nowhere, for no reason, I was afraid. My skin prickled, my heart thudded in my throat. My body knew before I did that I was not alone. So, isolated, scary, ghosts, extreme nature. Sounds really fun. This I got at a local used bookstore. It was my first time going there, and it was a fun little shop. They had a lot of like older, like antique books, but collector's books. But they had a few books that I found. I think I have 3 of them here to talk about. And this was, she took the price tag off. They were a little pricey there. I wanted to say this was like $8 secondhand. Okay. The next book I have to talk about, I got at Goodwill for $2, I believe. And that is If Something Happens to Me by Alex Finley. So I've read 2 of his books last year, and I really liked them. They were fast-paced, adventure, action-packed thrillers. I don't always like a lot of action, like, you know, shoot 'em up kind of action or stuff like that, you know. But his other 2 books were really good, fast-paced action thrillers that I read in like a day or 2 each. So I'm hoping that this will give me the same, you know, fast-paced, thrilling. That is so distracting. I'm sorry. My cats are getting into some packing paper over here. Okay. The next book I have, I got at Goodwill. I actually got this in January, but I forgot to share it, and that is Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. So this was $2 used. Colleen Hoover has the movie of this is now out in theaters. So, and this is on Kindle Unlimited, and so it's a one where you can do the read and listen. So I plan on reading the physical copy and listening to this book probably this month sometime. That would be a romance story. Okay, the next book I have here is an ARC. It's Sherry LaPena, She Didn't See It Coming. And I got this at that used bookstore I was just talking about. And you are not supposed to sell ARCs. It says right on here, advanced uncorrected proofs, not for sale. But it was for sale there. And this one was like $4. And I was listening to the owner talk about how it was like really hard to run a profitable business where she is. She's only been open since October. And she's like, that's why donations really help, because it's just really hard to turn a profit right now with this business. So I decided I'll give this book a good home, and I picked up the ARC, even though technically she wasn't supposed to sell it. Whatever. So this is a thriller, and it says on here on sale $729.25. So it looks like this probably came out last summer. And I've read a couple of her books before, and they are pretty fast paced, like domestic thrillers, psychological thrillers. Also at that same bookstore. Oh, so here's my receipt. I think this one was $9, so a little pricey, but this is one Stephen King book that I haven't read that I do want to read, and that is The Long Walk. I think the movie of this just came out a few months ago, but this is one of his earlier works. I think it was written, it was written under his pen name Richard Bachman, And it's kind of like a dystopian story about, I believe it's about these boys that are ordered to walk in this, the long walk until they can't anymore, till they die off. And then, um, yeah, so kind of like Hunger Games. There's a winner at the end. I give my congratulations to the winner among your number, and my acknowledgments of valor to the losers. So this is pretty short for a King book. It's just over 300 pages, 309 pages. So yes. And then the last book I have, I actually got this at the very beginning of the month, and that is The Institute by Stephen King. And this is also another one that could be kind of considered like sci-fi dystopian as well. It's kind of like, okay, so it's about this institute where brilliant kids are sent and they do experiments on them, mind experiments, that type of thing. So kind of somewhat like, I guess maybe like Stranger Things. It says, things will happen to you here. Some of them will not be so nice. Yeah, this has been on my Libby Holds, the audio, for like a year. So it was a really long wait at my local library. But I got this at Goodwill for $2. And I'm excited to do a tandem read with this and the audio when it finally becomes available for me. Okay, I have one book left. So I did lie, but this is my library book. And that is The Secret Book and Scone Society by Ellery Adams. So this is the first book in a series. My book club started up again at my local library after taking like almost a year hiatus. And the first month we read The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna, which was amazing. I love that book, favorite book ever. But this coming month for February, our read is this book. And I don't think we're going to read the whole series because this is the first in a series that's quite large. I want to say there's at least 10 books in this series, but it's supposed to be kind of a cozy mystery. And yeah, basically about, there's this bookshop that everyone goes to and they find the perfect book for that person. And then somehow there's like a murder that occurs in the area, and the book patrons get together and try to solve the mystery of the murder. I think that's what it's about. So yeah, just kind of a cozy mystery. I don't think it'll be like too intense. Some people wanted something a little more lighthearted after The Great Alone. This is 307 pages. So yeah, obviously this was free through my local library and something that I will have to return. So yeah, I had a really good month for book hauling in February. I did acquire 13 books, which I read 11. So pretty good. Didn't take in too many more than I read. I am trying to be more aware of that. I'm reorganizing my library here behind me, and that has helped me to become more aware of how many books I have that I haven't read. So I basically, for the most part, put all of these shelves are like 2 deep, some of them 3. And for the most part, I put all the books that I can see are ones that I haven't read. And so that made me more aware. I have a lot of great books sitting here to read on my TBR, and a lot of them are thrillers. That's most of them, but also some horror, some sci-fi. So I think I need to go shopping here more so than anywhere else. And like I said, I did pick up more new copies this month. Most of the time I try to get used, but I have so many that I just would like to get through. So I'm going to work on that more in the near future. And yeah, my highlight of the month was 100% was receiving that book Home by Ben Young. Again, this is just kind of a plug for him, I guess. Unsolicited plug, but it was a very enjoyable book. Please check out my reading wrap up for February if you want to find out more details on my thoughts on that book. I gave it 5 stars, spoiler alert. But yeah, it was really good, and I definitely want to read more by him. So check him out. Easily accessible through Amazon, or you can order through his website. Thank you so much, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye, guys.